don't know me, I have just defended my Viva from Queen's, and so today my talk is not that academic per se, but I sort of looking back to what I have done during the PhD and see how this um, what I have done lead me to where I am today. And of course, this talk also reflect on some of the questions that I um, received, during the Viva, and something that I think through after the Viva, after receiving my report. So yeah, that's that. And I will start my talk with a slide saying methodology. For those of you who know me, you will know this is a very particular case because I always avoided talking about methodology, especially when I'm writing my thesis. I have explored really through the years that what is indeed my methodology. And during Viva, I was asked about methodology. I explained that, something that I think it is methodology to my panel members, and they seemed quite content with the answer. So I decided, yeah, why not taking this bit out to work as a methodology? And then I realized probably this method of knowing, this epistemological way of exploring translation, is what always leads me to not only finish my PhD, but lead me to where I am and probably will direct me to where I will be in the future. So this is the main part that I want to share with you. I asked about Sarah if she wanted me to share my PhD or some of the other projects that I am doing now. She said probably something, both. And I think starting with this sort of methodology might be a good way of doing so. I will keep my time short so that we can have some um, discussion at the end. So, as you can see, two very important keywords, rhizome and lines. So these are the methodology that I take to explore, let's say, translation as an interdisciplinary concept. So rhythm and the lines are all indicate an epistemological way that I take as my way of navigating my inquiry. First of all, rhizomatic epistemology inquires knowledge and highlights the principle of connection, heterogeneity, multiplicity, and probably I think very important to me, the signifying rupture. Um, in a nutshell, this rhizome way of knowing oppose a tree-like knowledge structure featuring, dichotomy. So in a rhizome, there are only connections of lines, if you say. So they say any point of a rhizome can be connected to anything other and must be. So the highlights on the connection and the highlights on any possibility of connecting one line to another, connecting one root to another is really what caught me, and really that's really what gets me to think about translation, and that's really how I use to explore translation and any other disciplines that I engage with. So, in terms of rhythm, the multiple must be made. So it's not there. You have to make the multiple, and the multiple is not by always adding a higher dimension, but rather in the simplest of ways, by dint of sobriety with the number of dimensions one has available. So I'm not adding anything on top of this already very chaotic and complex rhizomatic epistemology, but I'm making the multiple by looking into the roots And finally, the signifying rupture, which I see very interesting, means that you can disconnect the rhythm, the lines at any point, and reconnect it with anything else. So that means if we think in this way, anything new, because when we are doing research, we always emphasize on new things, on innovative things, on novelty. But anything new can emerge, and there are no points. So it's not a starting something new, but it's creating something new by connecting different things together. So this connectiveness is really what gets me going, drives my entire PhD thesis. And Piotr, who's still here, I hope. So in his ubiquitous translation, he also explores the rhizomatic epistemological model founded on translational experience. So that also gives me a lot of theoretical insights to explore the knowledge, and then it goes to the topic of lines. But this does not suggest a second way of exploration. So in Deleuze and Guattari's book about rhizome, they say, I quote, "There are no points or positions in a rhizome, such as those found in a structure, tree, or root. There are only lines." So basically, the rhizomatic epistemology already engage with lines. But here I use line in a Tim Ingold's fashion to talk about, if anyone have read Suan's very interesting paper on wayfaring. So I'm more about thinking about how Ingold proposed the wayfaring of a way to be, really. So it's so Ingold explores the wayfaring as a way of in a way that how the world, or how us as human beings, and how the material world be in. So basically, what the wayfaring means is that it's opposed to the transport, a metaphor that we often take up as a translator. So the transport is, as Ingold says, destination oriented. It is not so much a development along the way of life as carrying across, in such a way as to leave their basic natures unaffected. But if we think about wayfaring, or those who do wayfaring, the wayfarers, they has no final destination for wherever he is, and so long as life goes on, there is somewhere further he can go. So I think what Ingold has highlighted is a indefinite possibility of exploring along the way instead of focusing on the destination. So in academic research, we say, what is your research question and how will you answer your research question? But if you think in terms of wayfaring, you will see, well, probably there's no answer to a question. We are not here to give a definite answer, but rather we are here to explore along the ways, explore along the lines. And in this way, our way of exploring can often extend as far as we want it to go. So in Suan's paper, she used this whole idea of lines and wayfaring to talk about becoming knowledgeable. Again, this is about the process. Again, if we think back to Piotr's, processual thinking. So translation is not about product, but about process. Here as well, our way of being knowledgeable is not about uh, having a knowledge of something as a destination, but rather, having becoming the knowledgeable person is about the process, about knowing. Another link probably between rhizome lines and translation studies is that Tim Ingold also talked about maps. So as a translation studies scholar, we are very familiar with the maps of translation studies proposed by James Holmes. But in James Holmes' map, it's really a tree structure where you start, with a central point, and then the points split up, and you will find your category. But in Ingold's mapping, it is again a rhizomatic way of knowing. It's about sketching map. So you follow the lines to get you where you are. So as argued by Ingold, the map makes no claim to represent a certain territory or to mark the spatial location of features included within its frontiers. What count are the lines, not the space around them.